Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Demakis with Alliance Specialties and Alliance Laser Sales, where we are mold makers that don't build molds. I know, that's ridiculous. Sorry. I actually have some food in my teeth because I just rushed through lunch. So forgive me. I will try not to make noises and things like that because I know it makes a lot of people crazy. So who are we? We don't build molds. That's your job. That's the mold maker's job. What we do is we do the polishing, laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner repair, mold maintenance, so that mold makers don't have to. We do all those additional things. We want to be an added resource. We want to be here for you to help you in those times of need and find different ways that we can serve you, right? We also have a laser welding and laser engraving development center in Prairie Grove, Illinois, where we build and sell laser welding and engraving machines here in the US, because made in America matters, and it matters more than ever, right? We want to make sure that you have the right service that you need. We want to make sure that you have the right products that you need. We want to make sure that you have what you need when you need it, right? If you get your stuff overseas, you cannot guarantee those things. So we're here for you, right? We also do production welding. So if you have new parts and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get those made, we got you. We have a whole team ready to serve you, ready to do those things, whether it's medical, aerospace, you name it. We've got some things coming up. We have PT Expo right around the corner. PT Expo is March 18th through the 20th at the Donald E. Stevenson Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. Always a good time. This is like the place for mold makers to go, especially if you're in the Midwest, right? It's going to be hard for people to travel from across the country, but if you are in the Midwest and you are a mold maker or a molder, you're going to want to come and stop by. We are also having a dinner on Wednesday night. It's going to be invite only, so let us know if you're interested in coming to our dinner. It'll be a lot of fun. While we're there, we are going to be showcasing our newest equipment. We're going to be showcasing our ID1 laser welding system and the ID1 FW. It's a fixed workstation laser welding system, and you are going to be able to sit and weld on the machines at the show to make sure that it's something that you want, right? That's really important to us. We're also going to be featuring our newest laser engraving system. It is called the Advantage. It will be working, and we can't wait to show that off to you. The reason I bring that up is because for every machine sold that we make, right? We make the ID1s, we make the Advantage, we make the FW. For every machine sold that we make, we are trying to end human trafficking. What does that mean? It means that we are giving money to the Tim Tebow Foundation for every single machine that we sell. We want to see this horrific thing end, and that's our part in trying to do that. So when you say, why buy a machine from you versus those other guys, I'm not going to say their names to give them free advertising, but the reason is because we care and we want to make a difference. And that difference comes in the form of serving you and serving the kids across the world, and making sure that we can help end this horrible, horrible thing. We have some additional shows coming up that we're really excited about. There is a spoiler on there if you're paying attention. If you're not, well, that's on you. Next week, Eric Sandberg from National Tool and Manufacturing is going to be in studio, so that'll be good. February 26th, we're securing some things and finishing up what that's going to look like. On March 5th, Katie Sobey is going to be joining us from Precision CNC Machine. I think her father might be with her, so that'll be exciting. March 12th, my good friend Megan Ziemba is going to be back. And then we're at PT Expo, and we're going to be having some fun there. March 26th, Jen Barlin from Falcon Plastics. And April 2nd, Leslie Peterson will be joining us. And I love all those people. It's going to be so much fun. But today, I'm really excited because it's topics that I'm really passionate about. Like the Manufacturing Alliance podcast, we talk about U.S. manufacturing, what that looks like, right? We talk about the journeys, the successes, the failures, the struggles, leadership, inspiration, like all those things are really, really important to manufacturers. But I believe very strongly that you cannot build a product until you build people. And so my guest today is somebody that I'm excited to talk to because she's passionate about that exact same thing. And it's really, really exciting. So I am going to bring in Jen Jehl. Welcome to our show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love the intro.
Yeah, thank you. I only stumbled through it a little bit, but I feel like it doesn't get worse from week to week, so that's a good thing. I can't necessarily say it gets better, but it doesn't get worse. I I'm really glad to talk with you because I think that you have a different perspective on people. And I want to talk about your journey, how you got to where you are, the things that you recognize and see in people, how we can continue to build people up, what that looks like for manufacturing and basically the world. Like I'm giving an overview to anybody that's listening right now. Like why? We're talking about manufacturing. Why are you bringing on a life coach? Because we all need coaching in our lives, and that's the reality. So I love the posts that you make, and I saw that
Thank you.
You're continuing to make them, and I thought this is somebody that has a lot to share and will bring value not only to me but anybody else that's listening. So right off the bat, I want to remind everybody this is a live show. So if it sucks, there is no edited version, and that's my fault. But
That's terrifying for me.
No, it's gonna be great. The good news about that is you get to be part of the conversation that we're having, and that's why we do that. So as Jen and I are going through these conversations and talking through things, if something sparks in your brain and you think, "Ooh, I wish they would talk about this," put it in the chat. We want to talk about it, whether that's on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or wherever that is. We'll see it, and we want to have those conversations with you. We want you to be engaged with us in this conversation. Because listen, I don't know what you want to hear about. I know what I want to hear about, but if you're listening to this and you think, man, I would love to hear about this, then let us know. And it's free marketing. So just put your name out there, tell us that you're listening. We will say hello, and then we will move on to things. So all that to say, Jen, thanks for agreeing to be with us. Trevor says, yes, LFG, let's freaking go. I'm hoping that's what that means. This is going to be epic. I hope so. That's all.
There we go. That's a great way to start.
Yeah, and I agree. So, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited. So my name is Jennifer. I am a men's life coach or a men's masculinity coach, either way you look at it. I came into this field kind of as a progressive calling from God, I believe. My story started out very unfortunate, I guess. I was a toxic people pleaser for almost all of my life until about a little over 5 years ago. So this toxic people pleasing was from a place of, insecurity, lack of identity, external validation. I was seeking things and trying to please people or situations that I thought would help me fit in. And of course, none of that ever works. So I put myself into situations in which I was abused. So bad relationship decisions, definitely took my life in a way I didn't really want it to go. If I could go back, I wouldn't change anything because I am where I am today because of that.
Yep.
But I would definitely speak certain things to my younger self. So I have bad relationship history based on decisions, really well-intentioned decisions, of course, hopeless romantic, bad decisions. Also bad business decisions. So I have been in people-pleasing business decisions, which cost me a ton of money, a ton of dignity, a very big hassle, lawsuits, all kinds of things, all because of people-pleasing. And so at one point, I was in a relationship. This was my last relationship over 5 years ago that I ended. And I found myself at a rock bottom. Now, I have 3 kids. My smallest, who is 11, kind of has a story that goes along with mine, and we converge at the rock bottom.
Sure.
So he has special needs. He was born with a chromosome deletion, and it caused very complex cardiac defects, pulmonary defects, scoliosis, developmental delays, and failure to thrive as far as nutrition is concerned. So it's been a very, very long journey for him. So anyway, back to mine, I was in this very abusive relationship. It was abusive to me until it wasn't. It was started becoming verbally abusive to my son as well. And I was terrified, didn't know what to do. Of course, deep in my heart, I knew what to do, but I was so scared. And it's hard to really understand the mindset of someone in that situation, I think, unless you've lived through it.
Yep.
But the fear kind of takes over, and then you justify and you make things your own fault, which they were my fault for getting into the situation to begin with. But so at one point, this person stopped the verbal abuse and actually hit my son. And that was the turning point in my story. So from that day forward, I literally ran away in the middle of the night with my kids to where my parents were living at the time. And the next day, I immediately started transformation. I got myself a therapist, a coach. I started getting further into the Word of God. I would say my journey with Jesus has always been a good one, but it was very surface level. And over the last 5 years, it's really become deep and meaningful. So I got myself deeper into the Word of God, business mentorship, all kinds of things. And along the way, I started writing, which is one of my biggest passions. I started writing pieces that were inspirational and therapeutic as well. And people liked them. And that kind of progressed into, oh, you should be a life coach. So I kind of went down that route as well, because I wanted to originally help the type of woman that I was. So a high performing, driven woman with bad decision making and people pleasing. And for whatever reason, that didn't work. And I started coaching men without this whole passion of masculinity that I have now yet. But these relationships went really well, and I became really confident in what I could provide based on the tools that I used to change my own life. And along the way, as I got deeper into the Word of God, I realized how important traditional masculine traits as well as feminine traits are to us as humans, to build, good businesses, to build good families, to build good children, marriages, all of that. And so I really started to have this passion for helping men become the best versions of themselves. I think it means so much to me because of my past, because of my lack of those types of healthy male role models, and especially for the fact that my 2 teen daughters have never experienced, I would say, what a real father could provide.
Yeah.
And I see the difference in other children. So, and then, society, of course, has played a big part in emasculating men. And maybe, it's starting to get better, I think, but it's done we've done a lot of damage to men. And I think healthy men are the leaders of our society, and the feminine energy and the masculine energy, as God created us to be, needs to work hand in hand to create good situations.
Yeah. So let's dig into all that, because there's a lot of stuff there, right? So
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, I think it's great. I think it gives people a window into who you are and your why, right? Like the why is really important. Simon Sinek taught all of us that, right? Like the why is the most important thing, right? People don't believe what you do, they believe why you do it. And so, your why is extremely passionate and powerful, right? Because you've experienced the bad side of men, right? And this false idea of what masculinity is, where it's violence and abuse, and I'm stronger than you, I'm bigger than you, I can do what I want to do, right? That's the illusion, right? That's what everybody calls that toxic masculinity. But I think it's that idea has bled over into so much other stuff that people just think like, you're a man, you're toxic.
Exactly.
And you have sons, you said, or one son.
So I have one son, and then I have 2 daughters.
Yeah. So you want to create a space where your son knows how to become a man and your daughters know what to look for in a man.
Exactly. That's really important.
Yeah, I totally get it. My son is 18 years old and my daughter is 15 years old, and both of those things are so important to me, and they should be to everybody, because that's the foundation of our world. It
is. And I think the whole toxic masculinity, first of all, I don't really believe in that specifically. I think women can be just as toxic. And I think the society that has emasculated men has also done damage to women as well. I think women are living in their masculine energy more so than ever. They're defensive, they have walls up, Maybe they've been hurt. Maybe they've been taught that they don't need a man. And I think that's really unfortunate as well. So I think it's both sided as far as the toxicity.
I think I 100% agree with you. And I think that what is interesting to me is the idea that we need both of those traits, right? Like we were created, like newsflash, we were created. Here's the manufacturing side of things. We were created, right? We were manufactured. We were manufactured by a good and intelligent being that built us the way that we are. And just like when you're in a factory, two parts don't serve the same purpose, right? You need a core and a cavity if you're a mold builder in order to make a part. And so we were created to be different with different, like you said, energy, right? We have the feminine parts and we have the masculine parts. And both things need to come together for the good of the child or the family or the business or whatever that looks like. We all have the parts that we need to play for there to be success in the overall, whether that's a family or a business or whatever that happens to be.
Exactly.
There are roles, right? And that's an important thing. And that's not to say like women have to stay in their lane and men have to stay in their lane.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's just understanding that there are ways that we are different, and there should be a little bit of bleed over in those things, right? Like, I will just say, I have no problem crying. I cry when I watch a sad show. I cry when there's like a kid talking to their dad. Like, I'm an emotional mess, and it gets worse the older I get. I don't know what's happening to me, but it's reality.
I love that. I love that because, well, just to speak on that point, one of the biggest traits of a healthy masculine man is emotional intelligence and vulnerability. And I think that's something that I do get a lot of pushback on as far as men don't feel that they need to be, it's not emotional, but emotionally intelligent. If you think about a marriage, especially, the man needs to provide he's the provider, right? But that's not financially like that. There's way more. He also needs to be the provider of an emotional safe space and to be understanding and patient with his wife or his girlfriend. I think that's really, really important thing that men overlook.
Yeah, like you said, it goes so much larger than what the traditional roles, quote unquote, are, right? People have these expectations of what men and women should be, and like the emotional intelligence part of that plays a huge factor in it. I know very strong women who are very good at what they do in their space, whether that's manufacturing or whatever that looks like. They are incredibly good at it. I can't do that. Listen, I don't have any misconceptions that I'm great at anything. And that idea that women can do the same thing as men can do, that is true for most things, right? Most things. Like men can't give birth. It's something that women can do that men can't do. Like let's be honest and factual when we're talking about these things.
Yes.
But that being said, there are certain things that like men tend to lead more, right? Like like you said, in your home. Like if you're a single mom, you can't just sit on your hands and say, well, nobody's going to lead, right?
Yeah.
It's not the ideal situation. That's why we were created with two parts, right? A core and a cavity.
Right.
Really.
It is really important to have those two parts, especially in a home, I think. Speaking as someone who does not live in a home with a man at this point, which I've done purposefully because of my past.
Yeah.
But I'll get there.
Sure.
And yeah, I think also to your point, women are very capable of going out and leading very powerful and bold lives, being business bosses. But I think it's also important to come home at the end of the day and wind it down. And it's the man's job to lead, both spiritually, both emotionally. Yes, the woman is the nurturer, but the man should be the overall leader. And I think that's something that I 100% will always stand by.
Yeah. And I think, like we were talking about, like that back and forth. Sometimes the woman in the house or the business or whatever we're talking about also steps up and leads, and sometimes that man becomes the nurturer. It's fluid in a way that it's good for it to be fluid, right? It's not. We're not saying gender fluid. We're saying that there are things like I have to be nurturing to my wife, and I have to be nurturing
absolutely.
to my kids. But I'm usually also the authoritarian. Right? I am
Right.
usually the one that punishes the kids, and then they go and cry to mom, and then she says like, you might have been a little too hard on the kids, right? And
Yeah,
that's also a reality. That's just part of what it is.
for sure. I think it's really important that you're also a nurturer to your wife and to your kids. That's something that's really needed. Again, maybe that's been overlooked in recent times, I guess, but I think it's really important. The woman needs to feel certain things and the man needs to feel certain things. Respect and love, and they both need to feel seen and heard and valued. So
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. See, this is why I want to have you on. It's so much fun. Um, I think, I think, I think where it gets a little bit blurry is when we start talking about the workforce, right, and what that looks like. Because, like you said, there are, and I've seen it, right. I work with some women who are extremely powerful and smart and skilled and business savvy and way better than at it than I am, and they're actually going to be on the show in a little while. Like Jen Barlin is one of those people.
okay,
The Coombs sisters are some of those people. Patricia Miller at M4. Like I can go on and on with these women
that's awesome.
in my life, in my sphere, who are really strong. That I envy the way that they're able to lead their companies and the things that they're able to do and the strength that they're able to have. And even here, the women on our staff are very strong and capable. And usually they hold me accountable, which is amazing. I love it. I love that they do that. And my wife also. I mean, she holds me accountable too. It's great. I explain myself to a lot of women, is what I'm trying to say.
As you should.
Yes, but they're right. I mean, every time they're right, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. So when you're talking about these things, how does that translate as far as like men, and how do you see that as far as in the workplace for well, let me ask this: do you work with many women, or did that not work, and why do you think that did not work?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I haven't really figured out the answer to that, other than that it was just not my calling to work with women. I don't work with women. I would work with women. I love women. I think they're great. However, I have always been better at communicating with men, ever going back to kindergarten. I was never a tomboy, but I always had a way of getting boys to open up. And so maybe, it's something that I was planting as a seed in my mind, way back in the day. I'm not sure, but I just keep following God's guidance, and it leads me into the areas that I'm in. And so I think ultimately it will progress and evolve further, but I just keep asking God for guidance every day, and I'm here where I am. So
I find that as a man, even growing up as a boy, like it was easier to talk to girls because men, when you get two men together, they have this like
yeah,
alpha syndrome, right? Like
yeah,
nobody wants to back down. You're stuck in this fight or flight, right? And so it is easier to talk to women, right? And that's just a reality because you're not trying to one up each other in any situation. And honestly, I find that a lot of times it's easier for women to also talk to men for that same reason.
I do too.
Because well, crazy thought. That's the way it was supposed to be.
I know, that's what I was about to say. That's how we were created.
That's
It makes total sense. If going back to Adam and Eve, like that's why God gave Adam Eve, to be his aid and his person, and
yeah.
that's the way. It's what it goes back to.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So, I mean, I can understand why you would have more success talking to men about these things than you would to women. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me in so many ways. So when you're working with men, well, let's look at some of these comments. We got some fans here today. This is awesome.
Awesome.
Let's see.
My eyesight's terrible, so my eyesight is really bad.
No, you're fine. Mayaba, I don't know how to say your name, buddy. Sorry, I butchered that, I'm sure. He says it's always good to listen to a woman's journey, and I'm so glad to hear about your journey, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you.
Frank Edwin Pate says masculine men equals feminine women. They feel safe and protected and can be feminine.
100%. 100% I agree with that statement.
All right, we are all in agreement so far. And I think that's really important, right? Because it allows you to fit when people say my truth, right? It allows you to fit into the truth that you were. And both parts need to coexist together for there to be success.
I do. And let me say something a little bit controversial.
Please. I love it. I love controversy.
Okay, so, going back to the Bible, how women are supposed to submit to their husbands. And people, think that this is just some terrible thing and it's evil. And why would any woman want to submit to anybody? But it doesn't really mean we're submitting to the control of the husband. What it means is, and this is going into that what that person just said, being able to feel feminine and protected in the husband's or the man's masculine energy. When you have somebody, and not to make this too religious, but who is following God or a higher power, and he's doing, he's following his purpose and his mission, and he's doing this for the betterment of his family and of his woman, that's when we feel safe and protected and can let go enough to then follow him. So us following him and submitting to him, who is already submitting to God, that's just a given. It's just It's easy, and that's what leads to the most fulfillment.
Right, and to go along with that, nobody is saying that you should submit and follow a deadbeat.
No.
Right, like I think that's really important. That's really important to put out there. Like the way that was written and the way that it's phrased is like you're supposed to follow somebody and listen to somebody and be with somebody that loves you unconditionally and is willing to give up everything and die for you. Right?
Yes.
And if you're willing to do, that's a person you can follow, right? Somebody that is trying to take advantage of you in the situation and being abusive and mean, or like fill in the blank. Don't follow a deadbeat.
Follow those people. No.
Right? Follow the person that's actually caring for you and looking after you. And I think that applies to business as well, right? Like if you are working for somebody and they're a deadbeat, right? They don't treat you well. They don't respect your vacation, which I have been guilty of. I'm sorry. I have done that. I'm a horrible person sometimes. I know. But if you are working for somebody and with somebody that is treating you well and loving you well, then it's not hard to put in the extra effort and the overtime and go the extra mile. But if you're working for somebody and with somebody that is nickel and diming you to death and counting every second that you're doing something, then you kind of get to the point and you're like, listen, F you, I'm going to work 9 to 5 and I'm out. Like, I don't respect you. I don't want to follow you. That's the way it is. It has to be a give and take. It's always a give and take. Every relationship is a little bit of bleed over and a give and take, whether that's your personal life or, like we said, your work life.
Yeah, I totally agree, which is why it's so important for in the workplace, in the professional world, to have good leaders, whether those are men or women, that embody, most of the traits of masculinity, actually. But a good leadership is somebody, who people want to follow, who people want to do the extra mile for. I think when you start having poor leadership or people who are leading from a place of power instead of empowerment, I think that's when you find everybody who is underneath them coming from a place of like mediocrity. They don't care anymore, which means the business is going to suffer as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What is this? Ezekiel Zamora says, this is not talked about enough. There is a balance that only comes from being grounded in Christ. Amen.
Yes.
I mean,
Amen.
That's where my feet are rooted. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? I have a book on my shelf. It was given to me by a guy named Greg Eidenberger from Paragon D&E. And he said it is mandatory reading for anybody at their company that wants to be in a leadership position. It's called The Servant. It is so good.
Wow, that sounds really good.
It is really good. I'm going to give you a controversial one. I already read it, and I'll see how you feel about this.
Okay.
Because you don't strike me as somebody that shies away from questions and people coming at you. I have my thoughts on this, but I'm going to let you look at it too. It says, here we go. Men have to be and do catering to women, leading unless, what does that say? unless she starts not liking it. Aim to attain Sigma mindset. I don't know what Sigma mindset is.
Okay, I'm not sure. Maybe somebody will comment on this. I think Sigma is like, it's obviously in between alpha and this beta that people talk about. I think Sigma's like kind of like, I could be totally wrong on this, but kind of calm and loner type personality. Is this
I
right?
have no idea.
Okay.
The funny thing is there is nothing between alpha and beta. Those are the first two letters of the Greek alphabet.
I know.
So whoever named this is an idiot to start with. So aim to attain Sigma mindset, both as a woman and men. I can't, in all due respect, think a woman can actually lead men to be men. Good intention, but Jen, I feel perhaps you should shift your focus and lead women. I have my thoughts on this, but I will let you respond if you'd like to.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I will say that one of the biggest questions I get probably 5 times a day in my LinkedIn messaging is, what gives you the right or the credibility or the qualifications to teach men how to be men? And I say to them, I don't teach men how to be men. That's something that other men do for men. What I do is help guide them to live as the man they are supposed to be. So I do that by helping them recreate vision and purpose across all areas of their life, from relationships to finances to professionally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, nutritionally, like all of the things. And then we also work to operationalize the masculine traits. And we're not talking about the traits of masculinity like leadership, protection, provision, strength and courage, all of these things, competence, responsibility, faith, love, growth, all of them. There are 13 of them. We're not talking about these in a broad sense of the word, but we want to specify like how, like what is the actual tangible action step that can get you to the next level in leadership at home and professionally? What is the actual tangible action step that will get you to level up your responsibility in both areas? Like, we're looking for goals, processes, systems, routines, all of that stuff. So yeah. I'm not teaching men how to be men.
No, I think sometimes, so I'm gonna piggyback on this with you. And I think that sometimes you get too close to yourself and your situation, and you need somebody else to point out those things for you, right? As somebody that's been through trauma and dealt with all these sorts of things, you can identify that right away. You can identify where people are falling short and what that looks like differently than I can, right? As a man, I can't identify those traits in people very quickly. They're going to come across differently to you. Mm-hmm. And you have a different reason for wanting men to become better, as they should be. And if you have looked into, like, and we're talking about biblical masculinity. I mean, like, spoiler alert, if you don't like the Bible, you may not love this podcast, but you should probably listen to it anyways, and maybe you'll get some gems and some nuggets out of it.
It still applies.
Yeah, totally, because we are different, and just because somebody's a little bit different doesn't mean they can't teach you things. And if you stay open-minded, anybody can teach you something, but you have to be willing to listen. You have to be curious. The minute you say, like, you have nothing to teach me about me, like, I got plenty. Listen, I have plenty to learn. I am not perfect. And the moment you look at somebody and say, you can't teach me, you're in for a world of trouble.
I agree.
What do we got here? Michael Milius says, good session for one that is married, and it's been nearly 4 decades now. So I'm very blessed indeed. Good for you. Hey, congratulations. That's a big milestone.
Oh, that is amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. And he says, thanks, Jennifer, and this guest. I get to be your guest. So let's get that straight. For sharing all of these thoughts. Lindsay Diamond is chiming in. She says she loves this conversation.
Awesome.
I love Lindsay. Her and I spend a lot of time at trade shows together, walking the booths and finding new ways to work together. And I love hearing her stories and the way that she shares and everything else. So that's great. Who we got here? At Dilly's Humphrey. We wouldn't be able to really exist without the woman. They are the backbone of every man. As long as she's a God-fearing woman, we have our plows, but we really can't do it without them. Yes, we need both parts. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, you need both parts.
We need both parts to be successful.
even speaking to on a, like a manufacturing level, if you think about like what I don't know what I'm talking about really when it comes, but aren't there like
I'll help you.
pieces that have like masculine parts and feminine parts?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
so it's like really woven in.
So I try to give this example, when people talk about creation, right? I alluded to that a second ago, that there is a purpose for each part of every person, right? Like if you look at a bottle cap, like everybody gets plastic water bottles. Plastic is not going away. Stop thinking plastic's going away. It's not. It's an important thing that we do. So you look at a plastic water cap, a water bottle cap, and it looks like the stupid thing that you just throw away, right? You take it off, you throw it away. It's nothing major. When you look at what actually has to go into making a bottle cap, it's insane. You need CAD designers, you need engineers, you need material, you need science, you need the ability to manufacture the mold. You need the plastic resin. You need all these things. You need a bunch of people, a ton of material, and a lot of time to make a bottle cap, right? All this complexity in a bottle cap. And for some reason, we think that we're an accident. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like one cell in the human eye is more complex than a bottle cap, and we think it was an accident. That makes no sense to me. And so when you look at how were we created, right? There is a core and a cavity. So when you make a cup, right, one side is like the core, right? The core is exactly what it sounds like. It's the part that sticks out, right? And the cavity is the part that goes over that. And when you do that, then the plastic fills in that spot. You pull it apart, and you have a cup. That's like the simplistic version, right? You can't do that with two cores or two cavities. It will not work. Both parts serve their purpose to make the thing, right? You can't do it without each part. You need all of it. And that's really what that looks like. And if that's the simplicity of a cup, how much more so with the complexity of a person?
Yeah, that is a really, really good analogy. I'm going to start using that.
Please. I enjoy it. It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh when people think that way, right? Let's see. So let's talk about real quick how, where do you see men in the business sense or in whatever sense? Like, how do they decide that they need to come talk to you? What are they feeling that makes them go, I'm not maybe living up to my true potential?
So I would say there are a lot of reasons. However, the most common and simple reason is what I see most is men are feeling mediocre and lost. So they actually have fine lives. They have a relatively good marriage. They have a relatively good job, but they're feeling just blah and mediocre, and they're looking for something more. And getting them to that place, because they feel like they're lacking purpose, lacking vision, lacking direction. And I think giving them the opportunity to create it and helping them and giving them accountability and all of these things gets them to a much better place. But it's mediocrity is what I see as the biggest problem.
So is that kind of like the midlife crisis kind of thing? Like
I
somebody's
think it's
going through their life and they think like there needs to be more than this. There should be more than this. I'm not living up to what I feel like I should be at this point.
I think so. And I don't necessarily believe in the midlife crisis as we think of it, as we were like raised to think about it. It doesn't happen at these magical ages of like, I don't know, 40 to 50, where you go get a sports car and everything is all good. I think it's just at a certain time in your life, you realize maybe you've lived up to, based your life and made decisions kind of based on other people's expectations of you or society's expectations of you. And you realize that you're kind of feeling unfulfilled, and people want fulfillment. And I think as we age, we want more fulfillment. Actually, I think I would say that retirement is the most important part of your life where you should seek more fulfillment. I always give the example of my father. So my father he lives across the street, but he was a physician in the military and also private practice, Air Force, private practice, then Army. He also has a master's in physics. So he was like the most intelligent, sharp man I've ever known. And when he retired back in about 2010, he started declining because he sat on the couch, watched TV, had no purpose left anymore. He became kind of depressed, and now he has such bad Alzheimer's that he is like a toddler. So going from this sharp man to a toddler in the mindset and the memory, it's really shocking. I think this can easily happen if you retire with no purpose. You have to continue your purpose, and especially men. Men need a mission, men need purpose in order to thrive. So I think continuously seeking the next level of life, whether you're 20 or you're 70, is really important. I don't know where I got off on that. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's great. I think it steers us in a good spot. When you look at vision and purpose, how are those two different to you? Or are they?
So I think you have to have a vision in order to kind of determine your purpose. I think purpose is evolving throughout your life. I think you can also find the next level of your purpose, So I think it's important to create a vision of what the next level is right now, pretty continuously, like twice a year, and look at it every single day. So like I said before, that's recreating a vision for all your relationships, not just your significant romantic relationship, but each of your kids, your coworkers, your boss, your family, your parents, whatever the case may be. Also financially, have certain professional, what is the next level professionally? You're always looking for the next level, physical health as well. Like every single thing is really important. So having a clear vision provides direction, and getting those action steps, routines, processes, habits, daily non-negotiables, boundaries, also deleting things from your life, all are part of the vision, I think. And then, a purpose, people always ask, like, how do I find my purpose? A purpose is always going to most likely come from your story.
Okay.
And how something you have learned in your life that you can then share to other people. It always involves sharing it or helping other people, 100%. And I think that's why we were created by God. We were each created with a very unique purpose. And it is our responsibility as a human to figure out what that is and then share it and help.
Yeah. So it's like the vision is what you see for your life, and the purpose is actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
The purpose is the practice of the vision. How are you going to get to that vision, right? Like if you envision yourself in a new leadership position at work, right? We'll make this work related. You envision yourself in a new leadership position at work. You think, I should manage this department, right? Your purpose then would be, how are you going to live in order to get to that goal, to achieve that vision that you have set out, right? Like you can't say, I want to manage this department, and then act in such a way where people don't even want you as an employee, much less a manager, right? Like, how are you going to conduct yourself? Are you going to start caring for people more? Are you going to start putting in extra effort? Are you going to start being more outgoing? Like, what is that purpose in your life? That purpose is going to drive you not just in work, but in everything that you do. If your work purpose is different than your life purpose, then your purposes they're not evenly yoked, and they're not aligned, and one of them is false.
That's true. I think that's why it's so important to have very clear goals and work backwards. Like, let's go with that example. If you want to be, in this new position, what exactly do you have to do on a daily basis in order to get to this position, and give yourself a deadline? Yet you need to act as if you already are this person. You have to actually become the person before you are the person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
And define exactly what it is.
I look at it, and people ask me, and I said it when we first started, like, my purpose is not to sell more laser welding machines. My purpose is not to do more polishing work. My purpose is not to have a fantastic podcast. If you're listening to this, you know that. My purpose is not those things, right? Those are means to the end. They are platforms that God has given me to be able to meet that purpose, which is to live in such a way that people are pointed to Him. And that's it. I mean, that's my purpose. All this other stuff is just like ways that I find to make relationships and pay for the things that we need to do and all that. But it's not my purpose. My purpose
Yeah.
is to, like I said at the top of this, right? It's not to make things, it's to make people. It's to, take, yeah.
Yeah, you and I have the same purpose.
Yes, yes. And, honestly, most people do. You have people that go like, I want to get into ministry. Well, the whole world is ministry, right? Like everywhere you go is a mission field and people that need to be loved on and cared for, whether that's in your work or wherever that is. And again, that's one of those reasons that I wanted to have you on here, is because there is such a misconception when people think about masculinity, that it's this big mean guy, or it's the guy that's like super jacked, like the Chad in the world, right? And he's overly intimidating to people, and he's pushing people down. But that's not masculine. That's incredibly weak.
That's weakness.
Yeah, it's weak and it's insecure, right? I look at. I'll say that in a second. I got more to say on that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think the toxic masculinity has actually two extremes. You can either have the toxic guy who's that guy that you just described, who's looking for a place of power and, ego, and maybe he's really mean, and maybe he's abusive or controlling or all of these things. But you can also have it at the other extreme, where you have this very passive person, like maybe think about me when I was younger, like toxic people pleasing, who doesn't speak up for himself or stand up for himself, has no sense of identity. So I think it can be toxic on both sides of those extremes.
100%. And you have to be careful when you're in a position of leadership, that you don't fall into that that misused level of masculinity, right? Masculinity is caring for people. It is protecting people. It's looking out for people. Like I have this picture. You can't really see it very well. I'm gonna do something real quick so I can make my point.
Okay.
Let's see. Man, this is easier sometimes than it. There you go. So you see this lion behind me, right? This lion serves multiple purposes. This lion is in a position of power. This lion has the ability to look over all of the sheep, and they are in his care. And if you look, they're not worried, right? The lion is on guard. The lion is watching, but the sheep aren't worried. They know that lion can kill him at any second. And the lion knows that he can crush them at any second. But the lion is there to protect the sheep. And that's the level of masculinity, right? Like knowing that you can cause severe damage and harm to this person and choosing not to do it, right? You have to live within those boundaries. Like the masculine thing is to protect those people that are with you and around you at whatever cost. And understand your own humility in that and your own weaknesses, and then have people, and then be strong enough to say, hey, I'm weak in this area. Will you help me? Will you come alongside me to do this? Right?
Yes.
You can look at it and say, the sheep are all looking out for the lion also. That's why they're all looking in different directions, to make sure that there's no other danger coming. Like there's so many things in this stupid picture. But I love it. I love it. And just that idea that, I think masculinity definitely gets this horrible, horrible stigma to it. Oh, speaking of stigma, Sigma, we found out is males who think outside the box. They are outside the box thinkers. It says Sigma character seeks solutions that others don't think about.
Okay.
That seems very vague to me.
It seems a little bit vague. Like how does that differ from an alpha, I guess? I don't know.
I would ask, does the Sigma male actually get it done, or do they just think about it?
Yeah.
Because if you think outside the box, then you're not actually doing outside the box. Like it's great to think about things, but you've got to step into that role and actually make things happen sometimes. That
is interesting. I want to do more research on Sigma males.
We'll have a part 2. Like, what is the Sigma all about? I don't understand.
Found the answer. To your lion picture really quickly.
Yeah.
What you described in that is also what I think of when I hear the word meek or meekness, which also people have the wrong idea of. People think that a meek man is a weak guy who's very passive and like doesn't ever stand up for himself, but that's not what it, like Jesus Christ himself was the example of, well, masculinity, but also meekness. It's the idea of like, yes, you can be dangerous. You have the ability to be dangerous, but you are under such self-control that you are not going to exercise that unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Frank Edwin Pate chimes in. I think this was going back and talking about the Sigma stuff. He says, Christ taught the perfect male character. I am the Alpha and the Omega and all of the characteristics in between. He says, he avoids the traditional norms. He's very effective. I think that's with the Sigma male.
Yeah.
And so I agree that, well, Jesus is the beginning and the end, and everything in between is really important.
Yeah.
And I think I hate all the labels, like whether it's Sigma, Alpha, Beta, whatever it is. I hate all the labels because we are all supposed to be a version of something, right? And we're supposed to, if Jesus was the Alpha and the Omega, and we are supposed to imitate that, then that's what we're supposed to do. And we're supposed to be all those things in between. Obviously, right? Obviously, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
There truly is only one Alpha, right? And that's okay. And to your point, Jesus did avoid all of the traditional norms. Every single part of what he did was different than what was expected in the culture of that day. And so when we do that as leaders in our businesses and our homes, we become different than any other thing that's going on in the world today. And I think that's where all that comes from, right? Like, Jesus got angry and he flipped tables, and like he sat there and made a whip. Like, that blows my mind. Like, he sat, he knew what he was going to do, right? He sat there and he's like, I need some cord. I need to make a whip. I'm going to make a whip. And then he goes in and he tears it up because it was necessary for that moment, right?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, this reminds me of one more part of the vision that has to be, I think, thought about is, if you think about Jesus, you know, he had a mission. He knew what it was. He knew exactly what his character was. So I think developing your ethos is an extremely important thing to do too. Like, what do you stand for? What are your boundaries? What your moral compass is something that you need to establish and never steer from.
Right. And I think you're exactly right. Jesus had a vision and he had a purpose. Not everybody understood his vision, and not everybody understood his purpose, but he didn't care, right? Because that was his mission, his purpose. And so he was going to do everything he could in that to accomplish those two things. And that's the masculine part about it, is not quitting, right? It's the gumption. It's the no quit in any part of it. I know my vision, I know my purpose, I know my mission, I know why I'm here. And I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let anything stand in my way to accomplish those goals and get that done. Whether that means that I'm going to weep, whether that means I'm going to celebrate, whether that means I'm going to get mad, whether that means that I'm going to love on people, whatever that looks like, I will accomplish my goal.
Exactly. And going back to the whole norm thing, that's why he was able to challenge the norms, and he didn't have to fall in line to what the rest of the world was doing, because he knew exactly, he was very clear on what his mission was. So that's how you can do the same thing.
Let's see. I'm going to talk about that. Hey, Frank Edwin Pate, he agrees with us. He says exactly. Why limit ourselves when our Father is limitless? Amen. I agree.
That's great.
If we are made in his image, we too can be very effective by operating in the supernatural realm and not worrying about earthly limitations. Yes.
Exactly.
Amen.
I love that.
That's the idea of faith. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I know it will. I can trust that this is going to be a good thing. Mark Brower says he loves this discussion. You know what? Me too. I'm really loving it as well.
This has been a great discussion.
See, and you were nervous.
I know. I was terrified.
There's no reason to be nervous. I knew what we were going to get out of this, and you know, you didn't totally, but I knew what this was going to be, and I enjoyed this conversation. I think that, you know, one of the things that needs to be talked about is the importance for strong men today and what that looks like. Why do you think it's so important for us to have strong men leading today more than ever?
Well, I think we are maybe getting through a certain time period, maybe not, but we have been full of division, hatred, not just in America, but all over the world. And a healthy men are what create, like I said at the beginning, healthy families, healthy children, healthy relationships that are fulfilling and satisfying, people who feel safe. I think emulating Jesus Christ is really important, whether you're religious or not. His traits are ones that you should embody 100% and seek to keep pursuing. And can you just imagine if the world was full of healthy men like that, who all had different opinions, sure, but wanted to work together and create safe places and good families and good values, you know? I think that's...
I think what's great is, I can't say everybody because I hate when people speak in like huge, broad generalizations. I would say most people, 90% of people, whether they believe that Jesus is who he says he is or not, believe that the teachings and the things that he did and said were good.
Yes.
And so what I'm challenging today is, I think that you should believe that he is who he says he is. But even if you don't, look at the things he did and said and the way he taught and loved people. And then you decide if that's a good way to live or not. I think that's a good way to live. That's where I'm coming from. And if you don't, that's fine. We're probably not going to agree. But not everybody has to agree on all things. That is totally fine.
Yeah.
But I just think that if you look at somebody like that, it's amazing to see how they chose to live their life in all things. Tom says you can't go wrong by emulating JC. I agree with you. I think right now we are in a world where men in general have been told that they have to act differently than what they were created to act like and what they have traditionally been. I am not leaving any room for misogyny or treating women poorly. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not excusing that behavior in any way. But what I am saying is that we have made effeminate men too popular and noteworthy in our society, and we need men to step into the roles that they were created to do, right? To train other men to become men, and to do that in ways that are good. And I love that you're pointing a light on that and telling people what that looks like.
Thank you.
You're not saying that I am the all-knowing authority on what it is to be a man, because you're not a man.
Exactly.
But you can shine a light on the thing and say, it's like looking at counterfeit, right? You can identify an original not by studying all the counterfeit, but by studying the original. So that's how you can recognize bad counterfeit.
Yeah.
And so, my brother used to work on the show Chicago PD, and cool. he was a location scout. And there was an episode where they were breaking up a counterfeit ring, and so they showed the place where the counterfeiting was being done, and they showed the plates that you need to make the counterfeit money. The problem was the plates were all the same way that the money's supposed to go, and when you do printing, the plate is reversed so that the image comes out forward.
Okay.
And I told my brother that would be the worst counterfeit ever. Like, you need to talk to the staff and tell them that they did this totally wrong. And his answer was, Tony, you need to stop watching the show. They don't care. But my point is, like, in order to, you can identify the counterfeit because you know the original so well, right? And so you can identify where men are lacking because you see men.
Exactly.
I'm guessing you notice men more than men notice men, because you're a woman. That's the way that works.
It is
more than most men notice men.
And there are a lot of unhealthy women out there too. I'm not saying that there's any,
Yes.
I'm not saying anything like that either.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Mark Brower says, I want my business to be a reflection of the truth Christ taught. I want the success of my business to glorify him, to point to the prosperity that comes when people understand and embrace true principles. Love it.
I love that.
Love it.
I love that.
He says, God sent us here with gifts. Our purpose is to first discover these gifts and then use these gifts in the service of others. Mark, I hope your business is really successful. I don't know what you do. Even if you're a competitor, I hope that you find a lot of success in what you're doing because you're doing it for the right reason, and you're finding that purpose. Jen, when you look at masculine traits, what does that look like? What are you seeing? And how do you encourage those traits out of people?
So the masculine traits that I focus on the most are, I consider there to be three like umbrella traits that go at the top, which would be self-control, discipline, honor, and respect. And those kind of trickle into and must be a part of all the other traits as well, which
Can you say those one more time?
Yes, self-control,
yep,
discipline,
yep,
honor, and respect.
Okay.
So those have to be part of all the other ones, which are leadership, protection and provision, strength and courage, emotional vulnerability and intelligence, not intelligence as in smart, but emotional intelligence and emotional vulnerability,
Yep.
responsibility, competence, assertiveness, faith, love, and growth.
Okay.
So that's what I feel.
List.
I know. But I think kind of back to my earlier point about creating actual action steps to increase levels of these things in your specific life is the most important thing. Like, I could read a book on leadership and figure out the things that I need to do, but that's written for a general population. You have to figure out what works best for you, your family, your business, and create goals and steps in that fashion, I think.
No, I love
I'm a very action oriented person. So, people talk about manifestation and, it requires belief, but it mostly requires action. You actually have to do the things that will get you to the place you want to be.
Yeah. You have to step into those roles, right? Like God provides a door, we have to walk through it.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time with some of the high school boys we work with, and just that idea that like if you pray for patience, God will give you opportunity to practice patience. It doesn't just give it to you. Like he allows you to earn that and come alongside on that journey. Caleb Miller says, and I love this because it steers in a little bit different direction. He says, scripture to go along with this conversation, Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. He says we need to be careful not to put too much weight on our purpose and what we think is right when the only thing that will stand is God's purpose for our life, which may mean a life that is meant to fall apart and fall into a series of difficult circumstances that may very well be God's design for us if we want to live godly lives.
I agree with that so much. I think that struggle is a big part of our story and our purpose.
Yeah.
We are meant to struggle.
Yeah, when you were talking about your journey to get to where you are and why you do what you do, it's clear that you were tested in a lot of different ways, and you were put through some trials to get you to where you are today. And I heard you say, and I knew exactly where you were going with that you don't wish that anything changed because it brought you to the person that you are today. But It doesn't mean that you don't find things that you would like different for your daughters.
Oh, yes, very much so. And I think instilling these types of values in our children is also so important. And I would say that as a single mom, it's a little bit hard, but I try very hard. So I didn't always have these values. I was a weak person. But, I've worked really, really hard over the last 5 years to instill very, very strong values in my children. Yeah. And I think that's another one of our jobs as as parents, is to instill your values into your children. So
it's a huge part, right? I mean, I used to tell my kids all the time that, my job is not to be your friend. My job is to make sure that you don't grow up to be a worthless good for nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
If we are friends at the end of this, that's going to be a bonus. I hope that's the case. I love spending time with my kids, but that can't be the whole thing, right? Be the dad that everybody loves. That can't be what we're trying to strive for.
Right,
in our
which is
lives.
hard sometimes, honestly.
Totally. Some people don't know this, but I am a huge people pleaser. Like, I relate to so much of what you're saying. I don't like having difficult conversations with people. Do I do it? Yes, because it's necessary. But is it my favorite? No. I don't like making people sad. I don't like making people upset. I really don't. It hurts me when that happens. But sometimes it's necessary. Like, I have brothers that don't recognize that about me because I feel like I'm always giving them a hard time. But the reality is, like, none of those conversations are easy. I don't enjoy it. I would much rather, like, have everybody love me. It's so much easier, but it's not the reality.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really hard. But what I will say to, having difficult conversations with people, we always, stay away from those. We always procrastinate and put them off. But when we do have those difficult conversations, we grow, something good happens, always.
Yes. And, people can look at this conversation that we're having today and they can think, well, that didn't really have much to do about business or manufacturing. What I would challenge that it has everything to do with it, because until you have strong people, it doesn't matter what machines you have. It doesn't matter what your product is. It doesn't matter what your service is. If you're not doing it for the right reasons and the right intention, with the right purpose, with the right character, none of it's going to work out. Right?
No.
We want to attract the right people. We want to attract the next generation of students into manufacturing. Well, you better start learning how to love them and look out for them and grow your company and your teams. You better start with that. If you have millions of dollars of equipment, but nobody can stand to be around you and you're a toxic person, good luck. Your business is going to suck. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if you can't, you have to lead yourself in the right way first in order for you to lead anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to look around, right? I saw a thing that said, if you don't have anybody following you, you're not a leader. You have to look around and see, like, does anybody want to come along with me on this journey?
Yeah.
If everybody's just
Good
waiting
point.
for you to leave the room, you're not a leader. You're just a distraction. Yeah. You're just a bill payer. You're the guy that checks the timesheet, right? You're the dad that brings home dinner. But if nobody wants to be around you and they don't want to follow your lead and walk into battle with you, you are not a leader. You're just a guy. Sorry.
Yeah, well said. That
reality.
hurts. That is
reality.
That's something to think about for sure.
So, you want to answer some fun questions?
Okay.
I got some fun questions.
Okay.
So, if you're still listening with us, we're going to do five questions. We've talked for a long time already, and I want to be respectful of your time. But we have 5 questions, and they're fun. But at the end of this, we will say a prayer. So if you have any prayer requests, if you have things that you need us to pray for, please put those in the chat. And when we get done with 5 questions, we will definitely tackle all of those. So Jen, think about that also. I keep calling you Jen. Do you hate Jen, or is Jennifer the appropriate?
I like both of them, just never go in between and call me Jenny. That would be awesome.
Ooh, all right. That's safe for when we're really friends.
Yes.
All right, let's see. 5 questions. Here we go. First question. If you could make one rule that everyone had to follow, what would that rule be?
Oh, this is really tough. I could go so many different ways with this, but I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is do one thing kind for somebody else that's inconvenience to you every single day.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one because a lot of people want to do kind things for them on their timeline.
Exactly. That's why I said, which is you make sure that it's an inconvenience, a little bit of one, because I think that really builds character.
Yeah, you added that one in. That was, I mean, yeah, you took it up a notch. Like, don't just be nice, but be nice where it hurts you a little bit. That's good. I like that. Question number 2. What is the one thing you are superstitious about? So like for me, I have to. When I go to the bathroom, I have to take 3 paper towels when I'm done. No more, no less. I'm weird. And I also put my right sock and my right shoe on first. Like I'll pick, not like sock, shoe, but like I do the right and then I do the left.
They say that there's something strange about people who do that.
Yeah, I'm very strange. I've admitted that already. I know I have a problem. But if I pick up my left shoe, I put it down and pick up my right shoe. I have to do my right shoe first. So if you're wondering if it's me, if you see me out and about and you're wondering if it's me, just that's an easy way. Which shoe do you put on first? And then you will have your answer. So that's mine. What do you have?
Okay, so I still do the childish things. Like, even though I don't believe in superstitions whatsoever, they're the dumbest thing ever invented. I will still knock on wood every time I say something that I should knock on wood for. And I will still, if I'm like holding hands with my child or somebody else, I will still not ever split. Like if there's a pole or anything, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I stay with those.
You avoid black cats. No
I
ladders.
have 2 black cats. I have 2 black cats.
Oh, all right. So then you just make sure they don't cross you.
Yeah, and they wouldn't.
Because then you'd put them outside where they belong. Filthy.
Right. I'm actually not a cat person, so I don't think I'm crazy. I'm a dog person. I'm an English Mastiff person, but the cats are a long story.
Yeah. Listen, that's stories for another time. That's that'll be part 2 of the journey. Why does Jennifer Jehl have cats?
And what is a Sigma male?
On the next Manufacturing Alliance podcast. Question number 3. If you swap genders for the day, how would you spend your time?
Oh gosh.
I think for me, while you're thinking about that, I think I would go out and do sales calls.
You would go, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think we have a very male-dominated industry. And we've got a really good salesperson named Michelle. And she has ways with people that like wouldn't work for me, right? Like she texts and emails customer and she'll say like, hey, are we best friends yet? Or can I come and get a tour of your plant? Like, and they say yes. And I think it's an amazing thing. I love that they want to include her into the space and that she's able to be more free and fun and herself, like her true self. And so I think that if I could gender swap for a day and I didn't look like this as a woman, then I would definitely go out and do sales.
I really love that. I would say I might take the opportunity to do my first speech on a stage, which for some reason sounds better as a male. I don't know why. I would probably, see, I feel like I would take yours and do some sales because I sometimes am not good at that stuff. And I think maybe I would have more confidence as a male sometimes. I don't know. Maybe, can I say something really stupid and silly?
Please.
I would possibly go pee outside on a tree, just, you know.
I was just like, I started smiling and laughing to myself because my brain said, ask her if she would write her name in the snow.
Yes, I think I would want to do that.
I mean, that's fair. I think it's great. I would not want to give birth.
No, you wouldn't. You would not.
That's not the thing.
I will tell you that you would not want to.
Nope. Question number 4. What book do you think should be mandatory for everyone on the planet to read?
Obviously the Bible is going to be my number 1, but I would also say Jordan Peterson is my biggest influence, and his 12 Rules for Life is a must read.
Yes. I think that's great. I think I would lean towards that book, The Servant, because I think everybody needs to lead in some capacity.
I'm going to write that down.
And it's a really solid book. Yeah, so that would be mine. Let's see. And question number 5, last of the 5 questions. If you are going on a road trip, what are your 3 must-haves that you cannot live without? Like in Spaceballs, Princess Vespa has her industrial strength hairdryer that she can't live without.
That's a good one. I would say definitely a brush, hairspray, and ponytail holder, because my hair is wild in the morning, and the first thing I do when I get up is pull it back. I couldn't live without that. I would say, can I say my cell phone?
Sure.
Definitely my cell phone.
I can't get anywhere without my cell phone. I'm dead.
My children, some really good music.
Okay.
And the ability to listen to podcasts.
All right. So a lot of that is just with your phone, right?
You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
I have to think harder on that. There's not much that I couldn't live without. I would say makeup, but I could go without makeup.
yeah.
I don't know. The phone has pretty much everything you need.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I would definitely have the phone with me.
Maybe some way to.
I'll bring some water.
Yes, water.
Water and snacks. I think
Yeah.
I think I could be set if I was gonna go. I mean, I would like my family with me, but if I was gonna go somewhere, if I had my phone charger, water and snacks, I would be golden.
Yep. I was gonna say money, but you can pay for things with your phone. So
You can. Yes. So that's been 5 questions.
Okay, that was fun.
I hope you enjoyed that. Like, not hard, right? Like that's fun. Fun, stupid little things.
I like that.
Sometimes they get to be a little bit more ridiculous, but this was more, I want to get to know who you are. I thought those were good tidbits.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else that you would like to discuss? I know that you have an event coming up, or did it pass?
It's actually not happening the way it was supposed to. We're postponing. So, but I do have some things happening. I'm going to be launching a men's group soon. So kind of sticking with one-on-one coaching, but also creating something that has a smaller price, that's more, because I think one of the most important things for men to have is another group of men to talk to. So facilitating that, I'll be doing like weekly Zooms, and then having a 24/7 interactive platform in which discussions and posts can be made daily by me and other people. So
sure,
that's something I'm looking forward to. And then I guess that's all that's on the roster for the immediate future.
Okay, and so I put your LinkedIn contact information there. What are other ways for people to get a hold of you that you would like them to use?
LinkedIn is what I use mostly, but I'm also on Instagram at jen.jehl. So that would be the other way.
Yeah, and when you think Yale, it's not YALE.
Correct. It's JEHL.
Yes. And if you didn't know that was how you said Yale, then you would be in my camp. That would be me.
It's a tough name.
It's fun. Now that I know it, I'm good, right? I'm good on that forever. Do you have any other things that you would like to touch on or discuss, or anything that we think we missed?
I don't think so. I guess in closing, I would just stress that vision, purpose, moral compass is very, very important for anybody, men, women, and constantly keeping those in check and figuring out what the next level of those would be. Something you should look at every single day, write it down, look at it, create your future. I think that would be what I would leave you with.
No, I love that. Do you have any prayer requests?
No.
Oh, in our house, that means suffering. I don't want to pray for your suffering. You got to come up with something.
I would say for my children to be filled with the Holy Spirit like I am.
Good.
It's tough. It's a tough thing for children to get that.
Yes, I agree. Mark Stewart, and then we're gonna pray. Mark Stewart, I just love this. He says, I just got baptized to show my faith to God. I would like to ask a prayer for me to be able to rekindle my life back with my daughter. Please pray for her as she has needs, she needs help understanding the importance of family. Thanks.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, that's an important thing to pray for right there.
Yep.
Ezekiel says prayer for an appointment with a neurologist opens up sooner than June. Health hiccup in December. Yeah, I mean, that's an important thing, right? Something that we can be praying for. That's good stuff. All right, I am going to pray, and then I will let you go because I've talked your ear off for an hour and 20 minutes. How's that for being nervous?
I think that's awesome. We did a great job.
Listen, I thought it was a good show, but I'm very biased. If you enjoyed this show, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this show, let people know, right? Subscribe to our channel. We have two different channels. We have the Manufacturing Alliance podcast on YouTube, and we also have Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales on YouTube. But you can like us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, or Instagram, wherever you get your social media. And if you thought that this show had any value at all, if you laughed, if you enjoyed it, please pass it on to somebody else, because that's what we do this for, is to share stories and continue to grow together in the things that we have success in and the things that we have failure in. That's part of our purpose. That's why we're given the journey that we're given, so that we can share it with other people, so that not everybody has to go through the same trials and mistakes that we do. So that's my pitch in a nutshell. I'm going to pray, and then I will let us go. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this new friend that I have in Jen. Thank you for the mission and the purpose that you've given her and the journey that she's been on. I just pray that you would be sending men to her in a way that she could help them lead and become better leaders in their family and in their work and in everything they do, and that they would be imitators of you and what true masculinity is all about. So I just pray that you would be with them, that you would give us that you would answer the health needs that we are running through, or the financial needs that we're going through, or just the worry that is plaguing us every single day. I pray that you would be with us, but ultimately I pray that we would trust you, and that your will would be done in our lives, and that we would know that whether we like it or not, that it is your good and perfect will, and that it will work out for the good of those that believe. And so we just give you our lives and our time, and we say thank you, and we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you.
Jen, thank you so much for agreeing to do this and not knowing exactly what you were going to get and stepping into it and being brave enough to do that. I think it was a great conversation. It's one that, like I said, I've been looking forward to for a long time, just to get a different perspective on the things that I think I know that I might not know. And so I appreciate what you're doing for people, and your willingness to keep pushing forward through all the perseverance that you've gone through and everything else. So thanks for being part of the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was the best experience. I really appreciate it. I'm
glad to hear it. I'm going to jump off real quick. If you want to stick around for a hot second, then we can just wrap up. But I'm going to sign off with everybody, and then I will be right back to you.
All right.
So that was Jen Jehl. I think, listen, I'm biased. I think it was a great conversation. I think it was a really meaningful conversation. I think it was an important conversation, and I think it's one that more people need to pay attention to. I think right now we need leaders to lead, whether you're a male or a female. We need leaders to lead. We don't need people to stand by idly and let other people run our businesses or our lives. We need to step in and lead, and we need to do the things that we say, right? So to go to Jen's points, right? Like, have a vision, figure out your vision. Why are you here? What does that look like? Develop your purpose, and then go out and meet your purpose in all things in your life, whether that's at home, in your family, or with the people that you work with. Just do that, right? Do it. Don't just think about it, do it. That's my challenge. Go do it. Go do the things. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for listening. I really, really appreciate the time that we've gotten to spend together. I'll see you at PT Expo. We are going to be doing some sort of E210 event. I'm not sure what that is yet, but we are doing something. We will be doing something to give back to the community at that event. Stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care.